All right, lighting the fuse on a brand new hour of the Steve Gruber Show now. Glad to have you along for the conversation here as we round towards the back end of another great week, busy week, of course. Fighting for you for the foxhole freedom every single day and giving you better analysis than anyone else. That's what I do here for you. And here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, SpaceX, Elon's company, preparing now to go rescue the astronauts that have been left in limbo for months after their spaceship failed and is not deemed safe for the flight home. Number two, the greasy law firm behind such propaganda and disinformation campaigns as the Russia Hoax, Perkins Coie, has been given cover by an Obama judge, at least for now, because they have a lot to lose. We'll tell you about that. And number three, I do have to say there is something bothering me today about where we are with the Trump administration here in his second term. And here it is. It's been 49 days since President Donald Trump signed this executive order, remember?
Lastly, sir, we have an executive order ordering the declassification of files relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
That's a big one, huh? A lot of people are waiting for this for years, for decades. And everything will be revealed.
Will it? Because the executive order specifically directs the administration to, quote, present a plan within 15 days for the full and complete release of all John F. Kennedy assassination records and immediately review the records relating to the Robert F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King Jr. assassinations and present a plan for their full and complete release within 45 days. That was 49 days ago. So where are the files? Right before the election in October of last year, President Trump appeared on Joe Rogan and said he was pressured not to release the files during his first term, but at this time he said it was going to be different. Here's another reminder. Listen.
But if I win, I'm going to open them up. I'm just going to open enough.
Why didn't you open it up the first time?
Because
though?
a lot of times,
what was the hesitation? Though?
Addresses, people that are still living. There are people that are affected. And there could be some national security reason that that I don't have to necessarily know about. But some very good, talented people asked me not to do it. I opened it up, and then they said, would it be possible for us to do that a different day?
How much of it did you read into?
I think it's going to be just fine to open it. Let me put it that way. I think it's fine. It's going to be time. It's a cleansing. It's really a cleansing. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it immediately, almost immediately upon entering office.
All right, so he did that. He followed through, at least, on signing that executive order. But why haven't we gotten any more transparency since that time? That was in October, a week or two before the election that he did that. Tucker Carlson says it's because there are still sitting U.S. senators preventing it from happening. Here's what he claims.
It's false. I have no problem.
Completely false.
Completely
Nothing
false.
to it.
I have no problem releasing the JFK files. Tucker could have called or texted me. He has texted me multiple times in recent weeks and asked me, and I would have told him that. I've never spoken to President Trump or any of his associates or administration officials about the JFK files. I've never objected to someone taking office because of their position on the JFK files. I have to say I have complete faith in Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, John Ratcliffe, and Tulsi Gabbard to carry out President Trump's directive on the JFK files. I'm a little surprised that Tucker Carlson apparently doesn't have faith in those four people, all of whom I think he knows and personally respects, that they're going to carry out President Trump's directive.
Yeah, so what's up? What's up with that? Tucker admits he hasn't actually asked Senator Cotton about it directly, and Cotton responded to these accusations in a Fox appearance, as you just saw. That's right. I want you to hear this.
In January, there was a scramble over who's going to get what jobs in the new administration. And at one point, there was someone who was being discussed for a job in the intel world, and a member of the SSCI, the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, Senate Intel Committee, went to the people making the decision and said, you cannot hire this person because this person will be certain to push for the release of the JFK files. So this is in 2025, less than 2 months ago, and you have a sitting member of the United States Senate whose main goal is to keep those files secret. And then you have to ask yourself, why?
Why don't you expose that person, first of all, so we can start chasing
Tom
after
Cotton
him or
of
her?
Arkansas did that.
Tom Cotton.
Yes, correct.
And did you ask him?
I haven't. No, I haven't asked him.
What the hell's going on with you?
I'd like to.
And there's your Tucker Carlson comment on the matter. Now, this is what happens when the government doesn't follow through with the transparency that it has promised to you and I. We get a bunch of he said, she said, with no real evidence for why we're being stonewalled, but we are getting stonewalled. 45 days to have the plan put out. Here's the executive order. Get the information out. Get the files out. Nothing. And while I'm at it, there's something else on my mind when it comes to releasing records. In fact, I would say there's almost a greater desire among most Americans to see the so-called Epstein list. An inventory of the men and women who participated in Jeffrey Epstein's crimes against young women. There is something that we were promised, and it's not here. We were promised this, quote, on day 1. But it's day 52 on that clock. Attorney General Pam Bondi said a truckload, that was her quote, a truckload of files had been delivered after being withheld by the Southern District of New York. Here's a reminder of that.
A source said, whoa, all this evidence is sitting in the Southern District of New York. Yep. So based on that, I gave them the deadline, Friday at 8, a truckload of evidence arrived. It's now in the possession of the FBI. Cash is going to get me and himself, really, a detailed report as to why all these documents and evidence had been withheld. And, you know, we're going to go through it as fast as we can, but go through it very cautiously to protect all the victims of Epstein, because there are a lot of victims.
Well, you had identified in phase 1 over 254.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, is that the only thing that would be redacted? Will everything else be made public that you get in your possession?
Yeah, the FBI hasn't had, obviously, they haven't looked at the thousands of pages of documents that they've just received Friday. Yeah. But Cash has a team going through them, and it's always about protecting the victim. But you know what? We believe in transparency, and America has the right to know. The Biden administration sat on these documents. No one did anything with them. And why were they sitting in the Southern District of New York? I want a full report on that. You know, sadly, these people don't believe in transparency, but I think more, unfortunately, I think a lot of them don't believe in honesty. And it's a new day, it's a new administration, and everything's going to come out to the public. The public has a right to know. Americans have a right to know.
By the way, just hitting the newsstands yesterday afternoon late, former Barclays, the bank, former Barclays CEO Jess Staley admits he had sex with Jeffrey Epstein's assistant. You see, it's going to crumble. And she got those files 2 weeks ago. And we still haven't heard a peep since. Why is that? Haven't heard a peep, haven't seen a perp walk. Prince Andrew is being basically excommunicated by the royal family in the UK. They don't want him around. Take whatever it is you did and please go somewhere else. We don't want you here. We'll have more on these files because I want them. I was promised I'd have them. And somebody's going to deliver on that promise. I guarantee it. I'll be right back. You probably caught this here a couple of days ago. The head of the FBI in New York was forced to resign. And when he walked out, he was flanked by crying, cheering colleagues and a pair of bagpipes for whatever reason. If he was obstructing justice by refusing to cooperate with the Justice Department on January 6 cases and the Epstein files, why was he being cheered out the door? The question is pretty simple for you this morning. Are there rogue actors still on the inside keeping this information from the light of day? Former FBI Special Agent Jody Weiss lays out some of the reasons for delays, but says the AG's messaging on the whole ordeal has not helped the situation. Here it is.
In a case like this, Jan, there are literally hundreds of thousands of documents generated. Plus, there were 2 trials in this case. So you've got all these documents, and I highly doubt that there's going to be this one pristine document that has a list of everybody that's involved. So you've got all these documents that you have to go through. So it comes down to a classic example, know what you're asking for, because who's going to review 100,000 documents? Right. Number 2, sensitive information. This case involved a lot of underage victims, and you never know how some of this information was obtained. You always have to look at the sources and the methods. So those are two legitimate reasons. Then let's throw in the political and the bureaucratic resistance. If you remember, the Southern District of New York and the FBI office, they were upset that the DOJ wanted to drop that case against Mayor Adams. So you have all those factors playing in, but here's the takeaway from this. This should never have been played out publicly. There should have been discussions between the FBI and the Department of Justice, work out these concerns, and then figure out how you're going to handle it. Do not make these announcements of these documents are going to arrive on this date at this time. Messaging was not good.
Yeah, well, we're beyond messaging, all right? We want justice. We want accountability. We want answers. We want what we were promised. Epstein files, JFK files, RFK, MLK. President Trump's counsel, Alina Habba, says that justice is on the way. We just have to be patient. I do think that she's telling the truth, but I'm getting impatient. This was earlier this week.
You have to be patient, because when you are wanting to prosecute and actually do something with the information that you have to make sure that you save the integrity of the investigation so that we can bring these people to justice, so that we can hold grand juries, so that we can do certain things. You have to be careful. The value for the American people to know immediately would undercut, we have to do it. We have to expose it. We're going to be transparent 100%. But we also have to make sure we're not putting any children in danger, putting any minors that don't want and do not deserve to be publicly identified in danger, and making sure that we put forth the information that would still assist us in getting these individuals to justice. It's such a convoluted thing, but I will tell you, transparency is 100% coming. We did get a ton of documents. Pam's letter, I think, was directed towards the SDNY, that we now know the individual in charge there had directives to go in the FBI and said, be the resistance, do not turn over the documents. We have no tolerance for that. But I would just say to the American people, yes, they got the documents. Cash instructed those individuals that you must cooperate. One resigned, who was leading the charge in not cooperating. And now we have them, and we have to go through them.
Yeah, you have to go through them. I think that's reasonable. But then why would Pam Bondi make this whole production out of having the files on her desk ready to share with the world and who the villains really are, and then not deliver? Why did Kash Patel promise to expose these criminals on day one? Americans don't like being lied to. We don't like being stalled either. We've had enough of that over the years. Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna of Florida said just yesterday she's still putting pressure on the DOJ and the FBI to put the files out for all to see. I hope that's true, because, look, we were promised these things. We're going to hold you to it. Here she is.
And have you heard anything on when Pam Bondi will release the Epstein files?
I actually bugged the DOJ today about that, and the FBI, so I don't speak on behalf of the DOJ or the FBI, but I am hearing that they are reviewing documents. We are pushing for this release. No one is above the law, period. The fact that no one's sitting in jail or has been charged for what Jeffrey Epstein did is pretty abhorrent, so I look forward to the AG bringing charges, investigating, and I would say that if the AG does this, she'll be one of the best AGs in U.S. history. If she doesn't do this, then it is what it is.
Thank you.
It is what it is. Unfortunately, that's the attitude of too many people in this country today. We've come to accept that corruption is inevitable. I say no more. No more. I say we continue to put the pressure on Pam Bondi and the rest of her associates to get this information out like we were promised. And what about unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAPs, or UFOs, which is what I prefer to call them, but whatever you like? That's something else we're supposed to have heard a lot more about by now. In fact, part of the 2024 National Defense Authorization Act required that the National Archives establish a UAP records collection. The law required that by October 20th, 2024, each federal agency, quote, review, identify, and organize each record in its custody for disclosure to the public and transmission to the National Archives. Well, that date's come and gone. And I haven't seen any transparency on that subject either. Jay Stratton was the director of the U.S. government's UAP task force. Here's what he said earlier this week in a Q&A about the upcoming memoir of his. Here it is.
Lots of time over the years, countless hours with Congress, with the executive branch, pushing this message forward. And what I want to say is, in those countless hours, I have given them information. I've given them not only the existence of non-human intelligence, but the address to go look to see it. and they were denied access.
So what exactly are we not being told? Again, that's the question. And why is it so dangerous? What's scarier, things our government knows about UAPs or that they might not know anything? And that's possible. Either way, I think we deserve to know. Our taxpayer dollars are being funneled into this research, so what's being discovered? Our taxpayer dollars pay Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, the DNI, the FBI, you name it, we deserve to have answers. And I hope this administration follows through with its many promises to make those items available for all to see. I'm holding them to their promises. You should too, even if it goes all the way to the top. Mr. President, you made promises to peel back the curtain. Please do that. We're waiting. I will take a break here on Real America's Voice, the Steve Gruber Show. I'll be right back after this.